Hey guys, in these videos I'm going to show you how to do conversion practice problems. I have 9 that I'm going to show you how to solve, 10 as one that I feel that you can solve for yourself. Feel free to pause these videos at any time and remember this is worth bonus points. So let's get started. Here's our first problem. We're going to convert 35 millimeters squared to micrometers squared. And in this case I'm going to want to go from millimeter to micrometer. Sometimes the best way to do that is to go from millimeters to meters to micrometers. So at this point in the video, if you feel confident, you can set up your equation, pause, and then come back to me. All right, so I'm going to go from a millimeter to a meter to a micrometer. So to do that, I need to multiply by a fraction which cancels my millimeter units and puts me into meters. Okay, so I know that for every 1 meter, there are 10 to the third millimeters. So I'm going to set up my fraction and I'll put my 10 to the third millimeters on the bottom and my 1 millimeter on the top. Then I'm going to multiply by another fraction that cancels my meters and puts me in micrometers. So I know that for 1 meter, I also have 10 to the 6 micrometers. Same thing, I set up my fraction to eliminate my meters on the bottom and to give me 10 to the 6 micrometers on top. When I do that, I get this answer, 10 to the 6 micrometers over 10 to the third. Notice the bases are the same. When you have two bases that are the same and you are dividing, what do you do with the exponents? That's right, you subtract. 10 to the 6 divided by 10 to the third is just like 10 to the 6 minus 3, which is equal to 10 to the third micrometers. But notice, we need square meters, micrometers squared. So what do I do with this 10 to the third micrometer? You guessed it, we square it. You distribute the square to the exponent and you distribute the square to the unit. So what do we get? 10 to the 6 micrometers squared. Remember, when you take the power of a power, you multiply the exponents. Good. Are we done? Not quite. We're converting this 35. So I need to multiply 35 by 10 to the 6 micrometers squared. My final answer needs to be normalized. How do I normalize it? This number, I need to take away an order of magnitude and I add that order of magnitude back to the exponent. So this number becomes 3.5 times 10 to the 7 micrometers squared. Excellent. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, practice problem 2. We're now going to convert 45 centimeters squared to micrometers squared. Do you remember how many centimeters in a meter? 1 meter equals 10 squared centimeters. And 1 meter equals 10 to the 6 micrometers. With that, we're ready to convert. We are going from centimeters squared to micrometers squared, but we always start with 1D. So, centimeter to micrometer. Do you know what I should put? Where I should put my units in these fractions to cancel? If you do, pause the video and test yourself. Okay, so for every 1 meter, I have 10 squared centimeters. You can see that my centimeters will cancel here. Same thing, for every 1 meter, I have 10 to the 6 micrometers. So this reduces to 10 to the 6 micrometers over 10 squared. When we're dividing exponents in this manner, remember, you subtract them. So this becomes 10 to the 6 minus 2, which is 10 to the 4th micrometers. Now we need to square this because we're trying to go to square units. You distribute the square to both the power of 4 and to the unit micrometer. 4 times 2 is 8, so this is 10 to the 8 micrometers squared. We don't just have 1 centimeter squared, we have 45 centimeters squared, so that's why I multiply by this 10 to the 8. We need to normalize. Do you know how to do that? Take away an order of magnitude and add it back to the exponent, and we have 4.5 times 10 to the 9 micrometers squared. Good work. Continuing. Practice problem number 3. We're going to convert 1.5 kilometers squared to millimeters squared. For this, you need to know that 10 to the third meters equals 1 kilometer. And you need to know that 10 to the third millimeters equals 1 meter. With this, can you figure out how to go from kilometers to millimeters? If you can, pause the video. If not, just keep watching and trying to practice. So we're going to go from kilometers to meters to millimeters. 1 kilometer is 10 to the third meters. This cancels my kilometer units and puts me in meters. Now I need to cancel meters and be in millimeters. 1 millimeter on the bottom, 10 to the third millimeters on top. This becomes 10 to the third times 10 to the third millimeters. You can see all of my units have canceled. What do I do with those exponents? That's right, we add them. That becomes 10 to the 6 millimeters. But we need to be in square units, so what do we do with this 10 to the 6? We square it. Distributing the square to both the exponent and the units gives us 10 to the 12. Notice that's 6 times 2. 10 to the 12 millimeters squared. Continuing, I have 1.5 kilometers squared, so I multiply this 10 to the 12 by 1.5. That's my original number. And then this is the final answer, 1.5 times 10 to the 12 millimeters squared. Practice problem 4. All right, in this practice problem, number 4, we're going to convert from 15 millimeters squared to kilometers squared, excuse me. So you need to know that in 1 meter, again, there are 10 to the third millimeters. And you need to know that in 1 kilometer, there are 10 to the third meters. So with that, let's see, can you set up your conversion? We're going from millimeter to kilometer, starting with just 1 millimeter. If you can figure this part out, pause the video and solve it for yourself, and then come back and check. So I'm canceling my millimeters. That means millimeters go on bottom, and I have 10 to the third millimeters for every 1 meter. You can see these will cancel. Then I'm converting from meters to kilometers. So I put my meters on bottom. There are 10 to the third meters for every 1 kilometer. So this gives me an answer of 10 to the minus 3 times 10 to the minus 3 kilometers. Why is it negative? Because these 10 to the third are in the denominators. So if I bring it up like this, I need to negate. So 10 to the negative 3 times 10 to the negative 3 kilometers, that is 10 to the minus 6 kilometers. What do I do with this? I'm trying to go into square units. So let's see, can you do this for yourself? Square it, and we get 10 to the minus 12 kilometers squared, but we're not done. We're multiplying it by this 15. And we need to normalize it, take away an order of magnitude, add it back to here. Negative 12 plus 1, negative 11. So the final answer, 1.5 times 10 to the minus 11 kilometers squared. Okay, practice problem 5. All right, practice problem number 5. We're converting 1 millimeter squared to kilometers squared, and this time I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to say that in 1 millimeter, there are 10 to the minus 3 meters. It's the exact same thing. Likewise, I can say that in 1 meter, there are 10 to the minus 3 kilometers. Either way, it doesn't matter. So using these fractions, I will say that 1 millimeter, in 1 millimeter, there are 10 to the minus 3 meters. And in 1 meter, there are 10 to the minus 3 kilometers. You'd see it'd be the same thing if instead I had chosen 1 meter is 10 to the third millimeters, then this 10 to the third would be on the bottom. It would still work out to be 10 to the minus 3 because it would be in the denominator. So 10 to the minus 3 times 10 to the minus 3, you can see all of our units cancel. We're left in kilometers, and I get 10 to the minus 3 times 10 to the minus 3, which is 10 to the minus 6 kilometers, just like the last slide. I squared that because I'm trying to get 2 kilometers squared. So remember, you distribute both the unit and the exponent, and I get 10 to the minus 12 kilometers squared. So that's an option for you. For practice problems 6 through 9, we're going to now be in volume units. So we're going to convert from 1 micrometer cubed to a gigameter cubed. And remember, 1 meter is 10 to the 6 micrometer. Likewise, 1 gigameter is 10 to the 9 meters. With that, let's begin. We're going from a micrometer in 1 dimension to a gigameter in 1 dimension. Look at what I do. I don't change the order. 10 to the 6 is here, so it stays 10 to the 6. And my 1 meter goes on top. I can leave it alone. I'm going to cancel my meters. So I put that 10 to the 9 meter down there and my 1 gigameter up top. This becomes 10 to the negative 6 times 10 to the negative 9. Notice negative exponents because these were in the denominator. Negative 6 plus a negative 9 is 10 to the minus 15 gigameters. We need to go into cubic units, so I cube it. Distribute the exponent, and we're left with 10 to the negative 45 gigameters cubed because negative 15 times 3 equals, negative 45. Great. Next, practice problem number 7. Convert 12 nanometer cubed to centimeter cubed. Remember, 1 nanometer, I'll go the other way. 1 meter equals 10 to the 9 nanometers. 1 meter equals 10 squared centimeters. Can you set up your conversions to go from nano to centimeters? Let's see. Nanometers need to cancel, then meters need to cancel. If you can do this, pause the video. So 10 to the 9 nanometers for every 1 meter. Likewise, for every 1 meter, there are 10 squared centimeters. This becomes 10 squared over 10 to the 9th centimeters. We need to subtract the exponents. That's 10 squared minus 9. That becomes 10 to the negative 7 centimeters. We need to go to cubic measurements. So what do we do with this 10 to the minus 7 centimeters? We cube it. That's right. You distribute to the exponent, negative 7 times a 3, and you distribute. That's centimeters to the third. So this becomes 10 to the negative 21 centimeters cubed. Notice negative 7 times a positive 3 is in fact negative 21. We need to multiply this by 12 because we're converting not just 1 nanometer cubed, but 12 of these. So 12 times 10 to the minus 21 centimeters cubed. We need to take away 1 order of magnitude and we add it back to here. What's negative 21 plus 1? Our final answer then, 1.2 times 10 to the minus 20 centimeters cubed. Practice problem 8. We're going to convert 155 cubic kilometers to micrometers cubed. Let's see if you can remember the conversions. 1 meter equals 10 to the 6 micrometers. 1 kilometer equals 10 to the 3rd meters. We're going from kilometers to micrometers, so set up your fractions. 1 kilometer times something else. We need to cancel our kilometers, go to meters, cancel our meters, go to micrometers. So in 1 kilometer, there are 10 to the 3rd meters. And in 1 meter, there are 10 to the 6 micrometers. Notice units cancel. 10 to the 3rd times 10 to the 6. How do we simplify that? That's right, you add the exponents. 10 to the 9 micrometers, but now we need to cube it. You distribute the cube to both the 9 and to the units. What's 9 times 3? 10 to the 27 micrometers cubed. But we're converting 155 of these, so you do 155 times 10 to the 27. Now we're over by 2 orders of magnitude. We need to take away 2 orders of magnitude here. So we add them back to here. Our final answer, 1.55 times 10 to the 29 micrometers cubed. Practice problem number 9. We're going to convert this time 3,450 centimeters cubed to megameters cubed. So let's see, 1 meter equals 10 squared centimeters, and 1 megameter equals 10 to the 6 meters. So let's convert. We're going from centimeters to meters to megameters. So set up your conversions. How do we cancel our centimeters and go to meters? We divide 10 squared centimeters over underneath 1 meter. Now I need to cancel my meters, so we divide 10 to the 6 meters. And on top, 1 megameter. Our centimeters cancel, meters cancel. We're in business. So this becomes 10 to the negative 2 times 10 to the negative 6. What do we do to those exponents? We add them. Negative 2 plus a negative 6, negative 8. But we are not just converting in 1D, we need 3D. So what do? We cube, distribute, distribute. Negative 8 times a positive 3 is negative 24 megameters cubed. But we're converting 3,450 of these, so we multiply 3,450 times 10 to the negative 23rd. We need to take away 3 orders of magnitude, 1, 2, 3. So we will add those back. Negative 24 plus 3 is negative 21, and this is your final answer. Practice problem 10, your turn. You're going to convert 20,800 picometers cubed to nanometers cubed. Remember, there are 10 to the 12 picometers in 1 meter and 10 to the 9 nanometers in 1 meter. Can you do it? Make sure your answer is normalized. Solve all 10 problems for plus 10% added to your exam. Thanks for watching.